Good morning, everybody. And again, thank you very much for joining and welcome to today's Compleat Education webinar, Improve Invoice Matching Rates for Your School or MAT. Firstly, allow us to introduce ourselves. My name's Kerry. I've been with Compleat since 2021. Prior to working with Compleat, I was working for Sage. So I've got probably over 10, too many years to admit, industry experience within the sector, dealing with a lot of people who are looking to automate their accounts payable and purchasing processes. I'm joined by my colleague Charlotte, who I'll hand over to introduce herself to.
Thank you, Kerry. Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Charlotte Newman. I have been with Compleat for 7 years now, and in my current role as Strategic Partner Manager, I work really closely with our Compleat education partners, as well as directly with schools and multi-academy trusts to understand their current processes and requirements and to support the introduction of advanced purchasing and accounts payable automation.
Thank you, Charlotte. So just a little bit of housekeeping this morning before we go any further, just to let you know what the setup for today's webinar is. You'll see all microphones are muted except for ours, and this will be the case for the duration of the webinar. This means that if you do have any questions throughout, we ask that you please drop these into the Q&A box. We'll come to these towards the end of the session. The webinar is being recorded and that recording will be shared with you via email later today. So today's webinar will take you through, first of all, introducing Compleat Education and our customers. What is an invoice matching rate and why is it important? Improving matching rates with automation and approval workflows. Purchasing and accounts payable automation, the end-to-end journey. We'll also have a live software demonstration which Charlotte will run, and then we'll also look at the solution benefits and our customer feedback before we open up to a Q&A session at the end. So just a bit of background. Compleat Software was founded in 2008 in the UK, delivering advanced purchasing and accounts payable automation solutions with a focus on the education sector. We have over 30,000 users and we process millions of invoices each year. We have UK-based implementation, support and a customer success team, and we provide real-time integrations into leading finance systems, including Sage Intacct, Sage 200, Accounts IQ, PS Financials, Xero, and many more. We are a leading provider of purchasing and accounts payable solutions in the education sector, because of our focus to deliver best-in-class functionality, including integrations with top suppliers such as Amazon Business, YPO, Brown's Books, and Esbo, to name a few. Our dynamic approval workflows that are flexible to meet any multiple school or department requirement, and a focus on maximizing invoice matching rates, all freeing up your staff's time. We offer a tailored education commercial model which enables schools and multi-academy trusts to roll out our solution to all staff that need to make a purchase request at an accessible price point, scaling if you're a single school or a 30+ school or multi-academy trust. So what you're looking at on that slide is just some of our customers in the education sector. We work with independent schools and colleges such as Repton School and Wycliffe College. We also work with medium-sized multi-academy trusts such as Red Kite, Anglian Learning, Initio Learning Trust, and those multi-academy trusts have between 14 to 17 schools. And we also scale up to the larger multi-academy trusts, including DCAT and Girls' Day School Trust, which have between 25 and 31 schools. So we've got a lot of experience in delivering our software across the education sector, regardless of the school or trust size. So today we're going to start by focusing on invoice matching rates. By that, we mean the percentage of invoices that match directly back to a purchase order and/or goods receipt. First of all, why is that important? Fundamentally, by comparing invoices with purchase orders and goods receipts, businesses can detect discrepancies and prevent financial losses due to overpayments or fraudulent activities. Also, accurate invoice matching ensures that businesses only pay for the goods and services that they have actually received, maintaining financial integrity. Higher invoice matching rates indicate efficient processes, reducing the need for manual intervention and allowing staff to focus on more strategic tasks. So what can you do to improve invoice matching rates when implementing automation? So firstly, a robust purchase order process with an easy-to-use approval step ensures the speed of ordering alongside company-wide visibility of cost, delivers control from the start of the purchasing journey. Automated matching systems, which use AI invoice capture technology to quickly and accurately extract invoice data, comparing back to the purchase order and receipt detail, automatically identifying and flagging discrepancies, which in turn then drives the appropriate invoice approval. In addition, the ability to direct users to preferred suppliers and agreed pricing minimizes price variances, further enhancing matching rates and reducing manual checks. We know from existing users of Compleat Education that automation delivers improvements on invoice matching. For example, we have got a customer that is a 14-school multi-academy trust, and they've achieved a 76% matching rate with automation, significantly reducing the number of invoices needing manual intervention. Alongside a defined and controlled purchase order process and invoice data extraction for matching, approval workflows are essential for exception management for invoice matching discrepancies. Automating the required approval for these types of transaction ensures accurate and compliant invoice processing, helping businesses avoid unauthorized or incorrect payments. Automated systems can route invoices to the appropriate approvers based on predefined criteria, maintaining an audit trail of approvals, comments, and timelines. Where approvals are gained at the purchase request stage and goods receipt has been confirmed, invoices can be automatically approved, reducing the need for additional authorizations. So how does this work in practice? As we've highlighted how your organization raises orders and the accuracy of these orders, it's essential for improving matching rates and increasing automation. Taking control of your supplier purchasing is also a key consideration, whether you're currently calling up or emailing suppliers or buying in store, buying online, or raising purchase orders. Getting best prices, controlling spend against budget, and generating accurate cost commitment and accruals, as well as further automating your accounts payable processes, are all enhanced when you look at purchasing automation. Compleat integrates with your online suppliers, including Amazon Business, Lyrico, Screwfix, eBay, and currently over 50 more supplier websites. This functionality automatically captures your online basket into a purchase request for instant visibility to your business and saves a huge amount of time. Purchase requests can be approved prior to order completion, and Compleat's workflows route transactions dynamically based on predefined conditions for your school or multi-academy trust. This could be by department, by location, or any value-based matrix that applies. Thereafter, the finance team will benefit from automated invoice data capture, invoice to order matching, including the matching of multiple invoices against a single purchase order, and real-time visibility and automated posting of the approved invoice data into your finance software. I'm now going to hand over to Charlotte, who will show you Compleat's purchasing and accounts payable functionality in a live demonstration.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kerry. Bear with me just 1 second and I will hop into our product. So what you're looking at here is our login screen for Compleat Education. We're a browser-based cloud-native solution. So every user that needs to log into the software will do so via a unique email address and password. If it's relevant and pertinent for your organization, we do also have the ability for users to log in via a single sign-on with the Azure Active Directory. So when I log in to our Compleat Education homepage, what the user's presented with will be dependent on a few things: the type of user they are, the securities available to that user, and what permissions they have. So you can see here we've got access to everything. I'm effectively logged in as a super user of the system, so I can see everything from creating a new order, managing orders, managing invoices. We've got some elements around budget monitoring, reporting, as well as things like configuration so that I can interact with our user permissions, workflows, etc. At the core of what Compleat offers, as Kerry has introduced, is around the invoice data capture. And the way that that's managed within Compleat is via a unique e-invoicing email address that's provided to you as a customer. Compleat will mirror the setup that you have within your current finance system, particularly considerations around multiple entities if you're a multi-academy trust. So you can configure to have multiple entities within Compleat and therefore multiple email addresses for routing your invoices for approval. That email address can be provided directly to your suppliers, or if you have an existing sort of finance if you have a centralized inbox, you can create some email automation to forward those invoices through to Compleat for the invoice data extraction at header and line level. What you will see at the bottom of our screen here is a scrolling list of suppliers to buy online with. So Kerry's already introduced kind of the importance of buying online and the tool that Compleat has around integrated online purchasing. So we've got a number of suppliers. A lot of these are heavily used within the education sector, which is why we've delivered those integrations. But it's important to note that the suppliers that you will see will only be relevant based on the suppliers that you're using and the ones that you wish to set up to integrate and buy online with. So for today's example, I will use a very popular supplier, Amazon Business. So if I just scroll through and find that supplier's logo, if I click into that logo, Compleat will direct me straight out to that supplier's website. So with a supplier like Amazon Business, it's going to log you directly into your Amazon Business account. So any permissions or restrictions that you have within that account for your users is all inherited. And then from here, the user's experience is the same as if they had gone straight to the Amazon Business website to start raising a purchase. So if I just look for the items that I want to order, I'll just look to order some whiteboard pens. I can start to search for those items and start to build out my basket, updating quantities, etc., as I need to do so. If I go through to view my basket, once I'm happy with the items that I'm looking to purchase, what you'll see is instead of completing that purchase and either paying on credit card or just checking out online, I now have this function here to submit these items for approval. So if I click on that, what will happen next is Compleat will take the contents of that basket, pull it through into Compleat automatically for you and populate a purchase request form. So what you see is all the core information that is required when raising a purchase request is already set for us. It's been defaulted. Things like the delivery site can be defined and defaulted based on the individual user, or if you have someone that maybe works across multiple sites, that can be updated and interacted with if needed. And then what you'll see is all of the line item information from that basket has been pulled through and populated for us automatically as well. So everything down to the item code, obviously the description, our costs and quantities. And what we have here as well is the analysis. So these codes and this analysis will be pulled through from your finance system, so will be relevant to what you're using. In this case, obviously, we've got a nominal account code that's been defaulted for us, and that can be defaulted based on a number of different criteria, maybe the supplier, the entity that you're ordering from, and other criteria. We have a tax code that's been defaulted as well, and also a department in this case. So this particular user sits within that English department, and therefore that department's been defaulted. But if I need to make any changes, or if I have codes that are missing where they haven't been defaulted, I have here this quick actions tool to set or allocate the department, and I can scroll through the departments that are available to me, and these will be pulled through from your finance system, but you can also restrict through security settings what users have access to which codes, whether that's nominals, tax codes, departments, locations, cost centres, any analysis that you're using. Once I am happy with my purchase request, if I need to, I've got the actions tool here and I can add attachments. If I maybe have got a quote from another supplier that I want to attach that's pertinent to the approval, I can do so. But in this case, I'm quite happy. So what I can do is click the submit button and look to send this out for approval. This submit button will present me with the workflows that I as an individual user have access to, and I can determine where I want to send this purchase request for approval. So in this case, I'm going to send it out to our department heads. You can see that request has been submitted. As a user with access to manage orders, I have a few trays available to me depending on my permissions. The first is the saved tray. So any purchase requests that I have started but not yet completed and submitted for approval will be available for me here. I also then have my submitted tray. So this will show me any purchase requests that I have raised that are currently still out in the business for approval. And I can also see in this column here who that current approver is. So I can see that this has gone to our head of department within English. So what I will do is quickly log in as that English department approver. So what happens when a purchase request is submitted for approval, the first person or people within that approval workflow will receive an email notification. They can click on a link in that email and log directly into Compleat to review that transaction. So looking at Rory's view, you can see based on his permissions, he's got a more restricted view on his homepage or a more direct view. So he can just log in and go into his orders area of the system. You can see the tray that he has access to in the first instance is the awaiting approval, and that purchase request from Amazon Business has been dropped right into the top there, awaiting interaction. So if I click on that, what I'm taken through to is that purchase request that we've just raised with the items from Amazon Business. And this approval user has access to all the same information that we've just seen, everything down to the coding that's been applied so that that can be reviewed. If you have a scenario whereby the approvers are the ones that might need to be allocating the coding, you can adjust the permissions so that those approvers can interact with that coding as well if need be. From here, the approver just needs to make a decision whether to approve or deny that transaction. If I were to deny and add an associated comment, that would be sent back to the original person that raised the request with the comments and the information as to why that was denied. On this occasion, I'm happy with that, and I'm just going to click to approve and add a comment and just say fine by me and click to approve that purchase request. So what will happen next is that we'll either go through for additional approval depending on how our workflow has been configured. Within our current workflow, that's actually become a fully approved order. So if I click into that order here and now go through to documents and timeline, what you'll see is that for every transaction that goes through Compleat, we create this approval timeline, which is effectively your live audit trail for all transactions. So you can see the original user that submitted the request and the date and time, a summary of that request, and then you can see any approval information. So the title of the approval step, the user, the date and time they approved it, and any associated comments. And this would be the same if you had a hierarchy whereby multiple people were approving a request as well. You can then see that order has successfully been issued automatically out to the supplier. So with an integrated supplier like Amazon Business, the process is we effectively go back out to that basket, check out and complete that purchase, and provide Amazon with this unique purchase order reference number that you can see here. For other suppliers, we do have the ability to raise free-form requisitions as well and send those out for authorization for suppliers that aren't online. And that's where this purchase order PDF comes in, and this can be automatically sent via email out to that supplier so that they have the information on the items that you're looking to order, as well as, most importantly, that unique purchase order reference number, so that when it comes to managing the invoices, we're then able to start to carry out that core invoice to order matching. So what I will do is quickly log back in as our main user. And I'll just touch on how those approval workflows are built out and configured. So if I go into configuration and go into workflows, you'll see the workflows that we have set up against this particular company. So you can have as many workflows configured as you like or as you need. Our recommendation, and the team that implements the solution for you, those consultants, will always advise and recommend how that can be improved and more automated based on the conditions and the way in which our workflows can dynamically route transactions through the approval workflow process. So what I mean by that, if we look at this example, we have a position 1 here for our department heads, and we've got it set up in a parallel approval process whereby we've got our different departments configured here. So if I go into our English department as an example, that's a user that we just saw who approved our purchase request. There's criteria associated to that user being required to approve a transaction. So in this case, we have a rule set which says that if the line item department has been coded to English, then this user needs to see that transaction. What that means is for any purchase requests that go through this workflow where there is not a line where the English department has been coded, then that user won't see that workflow. So if we look at HR, for example, the same applies. We've got a different head of department in here, and the criteria there is if the line item department is allocated to HR. So the system will dynamically route the transactions based on the criteria and the conditions that you set out. You can also have multiple users within a single step in the workflow, which creates an approval group, whereby all users within that group would receive a notification at the same time, but it would only require one of them to approve in order for that transaction to progress through to the next step in the workflow. So we've got that simultaneous parallel approval, or the group approval steps as well. You obviously can have as many steps in the workflow as you like. In this example, we've just got a very straightforward position 1 and position 2. And this position 2 applies based on a value-based criteria. So we've looked at the kind of conditional-based criteria, such as if it's allocated against this department. But in this case, we have a value threshold. Those thresholds within Compleat are a lower limit, which means if the net value of the transaction is X or above, then the user needs to see it. In this case, it's set to 3,000. So that means that anything under that value won't go to that user and will just continue through to the rest of the workflow. So in this case, when there are no further positions and no further approvals required, if it's a purchase request, as we've just seen, that will become a fully approved purchase order, either submitted back to that supplier website for integrated suppliers or sent out via email with a PDF purchase order for free-form requisitions. If it's a purchase invoice that has gone through this workflow, it's at this point that becomes a fully approved invoice, and that will post through to your integrated finance system that you're using. So let's touch on the invoice process. So I've touched on a little bit already about how those invoices come in via email. That data is captured at header and line level. The first place that those invoices arrive to once they've been captured and sent down into Compleat for you is our invoices area of the system. So from a super user perspective, I've got a number of different trays available for me to view. The first tray is this unprocessed tray. So this is effectively your AP operator tray, your finance team tray, and this is where the invoices will arrive once they've gone through the data capture and have had the automation associated to them in terms of matching. And they will land in here because they require some form of intervention by a finance user. The first column that we have here is around the PO matching status. So this is really fundamental in terms of what we're talking about today, but you'll immediately be able to see the status of that invoice in relation to orders raised. So for example, you might have a part matched invoice whereby the value of the invoice is less than the original order. So that will be flagged here and can be processed accordingly. Obviously, there's cases where there may be an overmatch. That value of the invoice is greater than the original order. So that's where you would be able to see that here and again processed accordingly, potentially through an exceptional workflow, as Kerry introduced earlier. We'll also flag any invoice duplicates. So the supplier reference, the invoice reference that's quoted by the supplier on the invoice document, we will capture that. And what we do when those invoices come down into Compleat is cross-reference that against all other transactions within your Compleat system to ensure that we're able to flag to you any invoice duplicates. They will always drop into the unprocessed tray for review by finance. And of course, you might have situations where actually you're not raising POs with every supplier or for every type of purchase, in which case we can absolutely process just direct invoices, and that will just be flagged as a no PO reference as well. Obviously, what we're talking about today is invoice matching, and the great thing with those integrated online purchases is the the opportunity for discrepancy between the invoice and the order is very, very limited, because you're capturing the price of the item at the exact time that you're raising the request. So that invoice is going to come in and nicely match off against the order that's been raised. So if we look at this top line here, that's for an invoice that we've received associated to the Amazon business purchase we've just made. When it comes to looking at an invoice, finance have a full overview of all of the invoice detail. So you have a breakdown up here of all of the header information. You can see the purchase order reference, and I can have a quick view of the actual purchase order that was raised as well, as a reference. I can also go through and see things like the timeline, so that audit approval trail that we looked at already. You'll also see here something around bank details. So in this scenario, we've been unable to check, but part of that anti-fraud validation that we do against your supplier invoices, if there are bank details present on the invoice, we will capture those and cross-reference those against the supplier bank details held within your finance system through that cache that we're doing via integration. So we can flag if there's a discrepancy, but you've also got the comfort that they match if that data is available for us to capture and review. We then have the line items that have been captured off the invoice. So again, everything down to the item code, description, costs and quantities. The analysis in this case has been inherited from the order. So that coding's already been carried out at order stage. Therefore, the invoice is going to inherit that. It's just removing the need for finance to manually allocate coding for every invoice. But again, that quick actions function applies. So you can interact with those lines, make any changes if appropriate. I've also got this quick tool here to actually view the invoice itself. So this is the document that was received by our Compleat capture technology. This is what's been sent by Amazon, and this is where we've extracted the data. I can also see related transactions. So we touched on the fact that you can match off multiple invoices against a single order. Really key and useful with suppliers like Amazon Business, where it's a marketplace. You may receive multiple invoices against a single transaction, single order that you've placed with them. So you'll be able to see the other invoices that relate to the order, and also any outstanding balance on that order for quick reference. If I click through to edit, this is the second page that I can come to. So again, I can see that purchase invoice PDF on the left-hand side. And then on the right-hand side, just a further breakdown. Obviously, we're looking at a simple invoice here with one line, but you can drill down into the header information, drill down into each individual line. If you need to split out lines, you can do that here as well. So I can duplicate the line, I can update the quantities and split that cost against multiple departments or multiple locations, depending on the analysis that you're using. Finance or AP also have the option here to add a comment, so that can be allocated against the invoice as it's submitted out for approval. So in the very same way as we did with our purchase request, we have this tool here to submit. So these are the workflows available to our finance team for submitting the purchase invoices for approval. In this case, I'm going to send it through to finance. We're very happy that that invoice has come in fully matched to the order. So what we have set up is a kind of a final check workflow whereby finance might review potentially if it's over a certain value. So if I go into our submitted tray, finance also have the tray where they can see all of the invoices that have been submitted out into the business for approval. So you've always got the ability to view those invoices. You can see who that current approver is over here. But until that becomes a fully approved purchase invoice, finance also have the flexibility and control to recall that invoice back to unprocessed if it needs to be placed under query, or any changes need to be made before it becomes approved and posted to the finance system. In our scenario, that invoice, because it's fully matched to an order and it's under a certain value threshold, when I submitted that for approval, that's become automatically approved. So it's dropped into our approved tray, and that will automatically post to your finance system. And what we will do with those integrations is we'll pull back a journal reference number, for example. So you've got the audit trail between the journey of the invoice within Compleat and the way that it's been posted through to your finance system as well. So if I click into our approved invoice and go through to documents and timeline, this is where you'd be able to see, again, any approval stamps. If it has been approved, in this case, we know it's been automatically approved. And you'll also be able to see as part of that timeline, the posting. So this is a demonstration system today, but you would have that journal reference number pulled back through. Depending on the finance system you're using, as part of that posting, we'll also be able to post either the PDF of the invoice itself as part of that journal, or potentially a link URL to the invoice within Compleat as well. So that's just a little high-level summary of that functionality, looking at raising those orders online, getting those approved, and the process of those invoices coming into Compleat and automatically matching off. So I will just hand back to Kerry.
Thank you, Charlotte. That was a great demonstration. So in summary, utilizing automation is going to deliver a number of benefits across your school or your multi-academy trust. So looking at the benefits, particularly for finance, they will benefit from increased accuracy, real-time visibility, automated 2 to 3-way matching for a zero-touch invoice process. Also, they will benefit from more efficient and more auditable approvals. And of course, the removal of manual intervention through end-to-end digitization. The budget holders and teachers will benefit from being able to buy online with their preferred suppliers. They can also approve on the move with mobile browser optimization of Compleat education. They can gain better visibility and control of expenditure, whilst also being able to access real-time information on the status of their purchase orders. And most importantly, they will have time back in the classroom to focus on more important and more impactful activities. So what do our customers say about us? We'd like to share a little bit of feedback from our customers. So we've got feedback from Red Kite, and they're a 14 school trust who implemented the end-to-end Compleat solution, and they're benefiting from streamlined purchasing by rolling out integrated online buying with Amazon Business and YPO, whilst also reducing the risk of human error through automated invoice capture and matching. So they're a very happy customer of ours. Milton Abbey are another CUPS customer, and originally they had a very cumbersome paper-based invoice management process, as many do. They adopted Compleat Education to provide a single streamlined system that saves them a huge amount of time processing their invoices and grants them visibility and control of the approval compliance across departments, with approved invoices being seamlessly integrated with Accounts IQ with no manual intervention. They recommend our solution to those looking to save time and streamline their accounts payable processes. So at this point, we'll just hand over to see if there's any questions that have been dropped into the group, and I believe there are one or two. So the first question is, which invoice formats do we accept?
That's a great question. So in terms of the invoice formats, we can pretty much accept any invoice format. Obviously, the gold standard and what we see a lot more of now is a digital PDF invoice. But if it's a scanned document, that's absolutely fine. A Word document, Excel, anything that's coming through HTML documents as well. So all of those will be readable, and every invoice that we receive, we will capture everything at header and line level as well.
Thank you, Charlotte. I think, Laura, you did have your hand up there for a moment. I'm not sure whether or not you have a question that you wanted to drop in because your microphone is muted. But we do have another question that came in, which was about our budget monitoring. So I guess somebody has seen that tile throughout Charlotte's demonstration. So how do we monitor budgets?
Yeah, so we have a budget monitoring tool within Compleat Education, and that gives our customers the ability to create and track budgets within Compleat. So the way that works is you can create a budget, associate what that budget relates to, whether it's a location, a department, obviously the value of that budget, how you want to break that budget down. And what Compleat will provide is a summary of all of the transactions that fall into that analysis and fall into that budget. So that will cover everything from your soft commitments, so your purchase requests that haven't yet been approved, your hard commitments in terms of approved purchase orders, anything that needs to be accrued for in terms of invoices that have come in, and then anything that's been expensed, which is obviously your approved invoices that have been posted through into your finance system. So it's just giving you that extra reporting and extra visibility, being able to track the costs from the very beginning of a purchase request.
Thanks, Charlotte. And Laura, we've got your question in the Q&A there, which is, how does goods receipting work?
It's a great question, and apologies we didn't have time to touch on that in today's demonstration. But the way that that works is users with permission to receipt orders would go into the approved orders tray that we looked at earlier. And you can switch receipting on at a supplier by supplier level, because obviously some suppliers it's maybe not appropriate to be receipting. But the users with permission will go into that approved order and they can review the original purchase order lines, and you can receipt either at quantity level or at value level. And if you can partially receipt as well, you would just allocate that off against the approved order. You can attach a goods received note or receipt as well for reference. And then when the invoice comes in, it's going to match to the receipted part of that order. So I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Charlotte. And one final question is, how is our pricing structured?
Yeah, so Kerry touched on it. You touched on it earlier in terms of the commercial model that we have for education. So we have a subscription model. It's an annual subscription for the software, and that's based on the user profile. We have it scaled, and we've made it very affordable for our education customers, given the requirement to have a high number of users. And obviously, a lot of our customers look to roll out the integrated purchasing at an end user level, down to teachers, not just department heads, but down to the teachers as well. So that's an annual software subscription that's scaled based on users and the finance system integration that's applied. And that also includes what we call transaction credits for the processing of your invoices. So there's a bundle included in there, 10,000, 20,000, related to how many invoices you need to be sending through for data capture on an annual basis.
Thank you, Charlotte. And Laura, you've dropped another question in there. Thank you very much. How does it link to the school accounting system?
So integration is a key component of our solution, because we are an add-on to those accounting softwares that you're currently using, enhancing and delivering functionality that a lot of those accounting softwares aren't able to provide you. So depending on the accounting software you're using, but the core concept around integration is ideally through a distributed connector, of which we have a lot that Kerry's already introduced. And the way that works is we will cache what we call key reference data from your accounting software. So that's everything from the suppliers you're using, the codes that you're using that I touched on earlier, those nominal account codes, your tax codes, any cost centers, departments, locations, analysis that's relevant to your setup. That's cached through into Compleat. And then the way that we then integrate back is at the point of invoice approval. So once an invoice has been fully approved, we will post that transaction in real time through that connector to create that journal that I mentioned earlier, either with a copy of the PDF invoice or a URL to the invoice. So it's a bi-directional real-time integration where we've got those distributed connectors. If you're using accounting software where we don't have a distributed connector today, we have lots of experience and methods of integrating outside of a distributed real-time connector that still delivers huge value and automation as well.
Thanks, Charlotte. That's great. That's the end of the questions that we've got in the chat at the moment. So just before we wrap up today, I just wanted to make you aware that we've got a summer special offer. And that means that if you book and attend a demo with us before the end of July, then you will receive a £25 Amazon voucher. And just to flash up the final slide, with our contact details on, if you want to reach out to myself or to Charlotte, our contact details are up on screen for you now. If you want to reach out to us to ask for any more information or to book in a tailored demonstration where we can go into a little bit more detail about your specific requirements for your school or MAT. So we hope that you found the discussion and the demonstration useful today. We'd like to thank you for your time. And we hope to hear from you soon. This webinar session is now concluded.
Thanks very much, everyone. Take care.